Those two type of teams, it was a really, I'll never forget it as long as I live. And the best part of it happened, to finish it off, was about 3 or 4 days later. Just passing the Italian coach, remembering that they had lost by a point, and passing him in the passageway underneath and everything like that, and he could speak, you know, a reasonable bit of English and everything to me, and he just said that was a good job.
Good, which is good to hear.
That's right, the losing coach.
Absolutely, good to hear. What advice would you give to young referees trying to aspire to do what you do?
Well, I think the ones that are coming through that I see now, that I'd love to see them say, like, whether it's you or I sort of say, gee, you've done a terrific job in that, we're going to recommend you to go up. Don't change in your next step. Don't change. Don't change. I can't emphasise that enough, because they go up to the next stage and sort of say, oh dear, we're going to have to do this and do that and that. What the hell did you get picked for in the first place? Because
you got there doing that, so keep doing it.
Yeah, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Yeah, that I'm really a great believer in that, you know.
You were an inaugural referee in the NBL. How many games did you officiate?
I only read it in the book the other day. I think it was 89 when I retired.
Why did you retire?
Oh, I just felt it was my time. I felt comfortable with it, and it was always an inner desire with me, because I'd reached those standards with the love of the game in mind, not so much with me. I just love refereeing in that. I just sort of, I thought, well, I want to walk away from the top at the top, not sort of coming back down the ladder.
When you retired, you were put in charge of the NBL referees. What was that experience like?
I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. And you might include in that, and I've done it for nothing, and I still enjoyed it. I got nothing, paid nothing.
And what did you do? Just roster the referees or evaluate them? Yeah.
Rostered them and evaluated when the NBL at the time, when they had money to send me around, because they wanted to really send me around more and have people, you know, that I'd say I want Harry to go there or Bill to go there and check this one and that one, mate. But money was very short, so my ventures to check on other referees away from, say, Melbourne were restricted.
What advice would you give to the VBRA?
Well, I've always been strong for our VBRA, because we've had such a collective voice on there, and everyone gets a chance to put through their thoughts. So I think with something that in mind, you know, we're definitely on the right path, and we've had leaders who have gone in there and given their best and so much of their time, who I can only applaud, you know, because there's a lot involved. There's just so much involved in that. And I think sometimes when we've been battered around a bit, that the VBRA has stood up and sort of put our point through, and at the same time not causing conflict enough to sort of say, hey, wait a minute, we're just not going to do it. At least we've been able to talk through it. And as long as they work in that part, I think we're always going to have a voice and be respected. So I think that we've got leadership is really terrific at the moment, not that it hasn't been in the past and that. But I've seen some tough times looking from a distance happening, sort of thing. But I've seen we've got through those extremely well.
What job did you do? Like, you were able to go away.
Yeah.
What did you do for a career job?
I had most of my career was in the railways, and that's where I went to one of my greatest basketball courts ever.
Which is where?
At Oyen.
Oh yeah.
So what I'd done was, in the railways, I was a linesman, but I used to have my own gang of men, and we used to do a fortnight at a time in the bush, as in the Victorian Railways. So there was always a shirt in, the grey shirt in the early days, and the black and white shirt and the whistle. So I was always looking, because being a non-drinker for no particular reason, I didn't like the stuff, but anyhow, that's beside the point in that. So while the other fellas in the gang would write themselves off after work of a night in the pub where we were stopping, I'd always seek out where the local basketball was, and I'd be up there with the whistle. So at Hogan in those particular days, where they said, oh yeah, it's up the road there, you'll see the lights of the place and everything like that, and they said, they knew virtually that I was going to go up and blow. Oh yeah, come up, we've got no referee and that sort of thing. I go up there and having a bit of a look around, I could see some car headlights and I thought, oh, what stadium or a shed, you know, must be over there. I go over there and it's just a bloody cow paddock, for God's sake. And so they got the cars around the side and the headlights were part of the lighting up the court. I thought, this is a fair thing, and because I looked around to see where the light poles was, and I think there was one pole had a sort of an incandescent 60-watt globe in it, and one down in the other corner. The court was dirt. The lines were done with the bit of white chalk around the sidelines. Oh, I thought, gee, this is interesting like this. So anyhow, it was a real experience. But the best part of that was, I guess, that when the ball went out at one end, and if it happened to miss the backboard and there was no one down there, it went over the road into the bloody cow paddock. I said, who's going to get the ball? I said, I'm not getting it. I said, yeah, the referee gets the ball up here. Now there I'm out over in the paddock walking through bloody cow shit, trying to find the ball, for God's sake.
Who did you most like refereeing with and why?
What you're talking about, our referees?
You can talk internationally and you can also talk Australian.
Yeah, well, I always felt comfortable with our own because we had such a great coach in Henry to set the standard for the whole of Australia, not so much Victoria, because I always feel the other officials were jealous of us that we had someone to give us such a terrific guideline. So you had the people like, of course, our people like Billy, Ray, Eddie, and in amongst that I put Rodney Bush. I had a lot of time for Rod. I think that he could have, I'm not pissing in your pocket, Rod, either. Because like his life, I think he was off to Zimbabwe at the time. I think he'd done a handful of NBL games and that, but I just liked his style and manner. I've seen a lot of what I'd learned from watching Henry at the end of his career. And yeah, those ones for us really stood out well.
Good. In basketball, who gave you the best bit of advice and what was it?
Probably a bit of a hard question, that, because I always sought Henry out. And it was a pretty tough time for me in so much as it, I always felt, and I don't say to put myself up on a pedestal or anything, I just loved officiate. I didn't care whether I was going to referee the under-12s grand final, the girls or what, I didn't care. I was that. I just loved it, you know, to think to be part of the game. And I always remember after the business of where Victoria put me down, I thought, wow, do I stay refereeing at a top level and not worry about the other business, or just say, look, I'm happy to do domestic stuff. And I remember having a good a chat with Henry about it at the time, quite a lengthy chat, because I said, you know, it hurt. It shocked everybody. And he said, look, he said, to me, you just got too much to offer, keep going and enjoying your refereeing and everything like that. And he said, just see where it takes you. He says, I can't remember his exact words, but he said, I feel it'll probably, you know, carry you through. You know, he was really saying to me, this should never have happened, never. So, and that advice sort of stuck through to today, and there's always been times after that, because I'm talking about the early to middle 70s there, that I always spoke to Ron a bit. You know, I always enjoyed Ron's, he was always straight to the point and everything like that, and I took that in as a confidence thing, and it was just between him and I sort of thing. It was good.
So, speaking of officiating and your love of it, are you still doing it now? At all?
Oh, look, I would love to. I just retired in the last 18 months to 2 years down the Southern Peninsula. And
so you're not involved in basketball at all now?
In so much as, yes, I do help out with when I get called with either the Mornington or Southern Peninsula to help with the A-grade schools. So I'm just a call away. So, you know, it's better that someone else completely runs the show and I'm completely free. I find it very hard to make the break, because it's been sort of in my blood.
You don't get involved in the Masters games or
no
refereeing?
Well, look, Ron, really, I would love to be still refereeing, walking the court with a genius and that, but I had back problems, and I find that the running, just getting into a bit of a jog, really flares everything up to me. So, because there was even a stage there that I was doing midweek ladies. I thought, gee, I could still do something like that. But I just, even the walking and shooting of the arm, you know, which sort of was automatic, and for me it was always straight. It was never sort of wells on it, you know, bang, you know, it was pretty straightforward. So yeah, I really miss that. I reckon that took me 10 years to quiet myself down. You know, can I go back and have another go? Can I go back? But my body said no.
So you've retired from basketball, you've retired from work?
I have been retired from work for quite some time.
So what's John Holden doing now?
Well, as I said to you prior to, we're just coming in, had the car out the front and about to get ready to bring the caravan up from our son's place and fill it up, and then in the next couple of days we'll be up in a northerly area. Otherwise, during the winter months and that, I've got to put up with this bloody crap what's going on with Essendon, for God's sake. You talk about the Bulldogs, oh, jeepers, God almighty. Well, let's have a Asada, who are they? Anyhow, take them out and, I don't know.
Shoot them.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I just saying to Ron, there's something I should put in there, which I'm thankful for. In those early days of getting money to get away and that, there was fundraising. I always thank the Victorian Basketball Referees Association, who donated a night's money for my first trip overseas back in 1967 we all had to raise, not only as the officials, the players all had to raise over $1,000, and that was a lot of dough back then.
So you had to raise money to go to the Olympics and the World Championships.
Exactly right, yes. And along with that, the two that I always had to take my annual leave, so it sort of left money home for Mary and our kids sort of thing to keep her going. So anything that I got, there was nothing coming from Basketball Australia or anything like that. You sort of relied on the host countries, which was really good because, you know, meals were supplied, your accommodation was supplied, your any other major needs that you wanted was you got. But otherwise all the money, and it was only probably in later years that FIBA come to the party a bit with what they'd pay about 20 Deutschmarks, I think, or something like that a day or something to cover out-of-pocket expenses or something like that. But otherwise, fundraising, leaving, so all my leave in those days went back to sort of saying to Mary and the family to sort of say, well, you've got the wages here, you're covered okay, and that I can look after myself over there. So for those without their support or anything like that, it wouldn't have at all been possible. I never even had to ask her or anything like that. It was just a case she knew it was my love and everything, so and that's where it went. But I always thank the referees from those early days. A night's money was donated. Because there was always a couple that said, oh, I'm not bloody old news here, I'm not picking up and watch monitoring sort of thing and that. But they were only 2.5. Well, I think that the blue from memory was just the badge, and then you had to organise the trimming yourself. And the red around it meant that you were an A-grade referee. And then they felt that the fact, there was also, when there's another badge I've got somewhere, that was my first Australian badge, and then after that it became the FIBA badge, which had FIBA written in the middle of that there.
Oh, yeah.
But they felt that this was causing problems, so they went back to just a straight VBRA badge for all referees, which was fine. Presenter like got it mounted and everything like that, and we said, we'll give it to this bloke, because we had a lot of laughs about it after, because as I recall, that mouthguard travelled 3/4 of the way down the court when I called this disqualifying technical foul on one of the players. So.